Over the last year or so, we have seen America's roller coaster Cedar Point remove a 200-foot coaster in Wicked Twister and close Top Thrill Dragster indefinitely, the 420-foot Intamin launch coaster. Now in 2023, it will be 5 years since the last coaster edition, which may not seem like a lot, but for the park that's averaged a new coaster every 3 years since 1979, it's something. But with construction fences up and the Wicked Twister former plot, let's take a look at what could be next for Cedar Point. First things first, let's take a look into the park's existing lineup, and you probably won't find a better one in the world. For the families, you have Wilderness Run, an Intamin kiddie coaster, Woodstock Express, a Vekoma Junior coaster, and Cedar Creek Mine Ride, an Arrow mine train. Now graduating a small step up in thrills, you have Blue Streak, the oldest coaster in the park, a PTC Woody from 1964, and Iron Dragon, a very mild Arrow suspended coaster. Now, the only true intermediate coasters in the park may be Gemini, a rare dueling hybrid coaster from Arrow that's been thrilling guests since 1978, and Corkscrew, the 3-inversion classic from Arrow. Now, this starts the park's array of B&Ms. Rougarou is a floorless conversion of a large-scale stand-up coaster, Raptor is a large B&M invert, and Gigkeeper is the 2013 front entrance wing coaster. Finally, there's Valraven, which is the latest from B&M, and it's a 200-plus foot dive machine. For those Intamin lovers out there, how about Dragster, the first coaster to top 400 feet, Millennium Force, the first Giga coaster, and Maverick, an Intamin blitz that is as thrilling as any coaster out there, even if the stats don't really show it. Throw in Magnum XL 200 for some old-school Arrow janky airtime, and cap off the lineup with the RMC Hyper Hybrid Steel Vengeance for one of the best coasters in the world. Overall, the park features 16 roller coasters once Dragster reopens, and it doesn't really have many holes. 2 launch coasters, 7 rides that feature inversions, ejector and floater airtime that are abundant, and 5 rides over 200 feet. The park has more holes pertaining to specific models than actual types of forces or types of rides. Now, obviously the best bet for a new coaster here will be in that Wicked Twister plot that's now under construction. The theater and old coaster give us a nice plot of about 100 feet and as long as 560 feet. So there isn't too much room to work with here, but that being said, it's Cedar Point and they're not afraid to go big and move things around. If they build around the Ferris wheel and or relocate some of those fly rides in the area, it becomes a much nicer 550 foot by 250 foot plot. Now, as a park with a huge budget, there are plenty of companies that could be brought in. So let's start with their most recent partner, RMC. Now, the obvious choice here has to be that long and skinny new iconic single rail models. Now, the upscale Jersey Devil model at Great Adventure is about 620 feet by 65 feet at its widest. With a bit of play, a similar scale could pretty easily fit here. Now, they could be waiting for a coaster enthusiast dream of that T-Rex model eventually with the 2 across seating, which is an upscale of the Raptor track, but this has to be one of the more plausible options here. Moving to B&M, the only 2 models that seem kind of possible are the new Surf Coaster or the Flyer. Now, the Flyer is the last of the old B&M models not to be at the park, and be pretty unique to the area. Even if they already have plenty of rides that go off the track, a custom Flyer could be a lot of fun. Now, the Surf may fit the plot better, but the low-to-the-ground inversion launch coaster may feel a little too similar to Maverick, even if it would be a bit more elegant, and the park could always use more launches to replace Wicked Twister. Now, neither of these fit all too comfortably in the pot with existing models, but I think a custom layout could easily work for either one. Now, as for some other major manufacturers of the past, Intamin, the company and the chain haven't really worked together in a long time. They have a pretty rocky past, so I doubt that they're going to bring them in, and there's really nothing that Intamin can bring in that's overly different from what they already have. Now, another doubtful partnership is really any wooden coaster. Even if a modern wooden coaster probably makes the most sense hole-wise in the lineup. There just isn't really the space, nor is it as markable as the park would like. Now, the 2 major wildcards coming in that I would like to see are a pair of unique models. First is from Vekoma. The FLY Modern Flying Coaster is a wonderful ride. There's currently only one of these from Fantasialand, but a launched flying coaster could add such a unique experience to the park, area, and the country. It's really easy to market as it's North America's only launched flying coaster, and maybe make it top flying dinosaur for the fastest flyer at 62 miles an hour. Now, the 300 by 200 FLY plot could pretty easily be tweaked to fit in this plot, and it's a long shot, but it's an exciting idea. My other major wildcard here is from S&S. While I know many want a 4D hyper like X2 at Magic Mountain, I don't think the room is really here, but how about the world's first Axis coaster? Now I think the park may be a little tentative to install a prototype, and there isn't a ton of history between S&S and Cedar Fair, but to bring together something with this much attention, with the prototype and the hype, I think it could be really interesting. Now some quick other companies, Gerstlauer has some really unique models coming to the States lately, but I don't know if an upscale hang time or shell raiser is really the way to go here. It may be a little too similar to loopers in the park already. Mach has, of course, the ultimate play with the Extreme Spinner, which could cover a missing spinning coaster in the lineup, but it also comes at a big price, and we really haven't seen an out and back version, so it may be an issue fitting the plot here. Truth is, the park has so many options because of their funds and willingness to push boundaries. Normally, I like to talk about the budget and see what's more affordable, but I don't think there's a model that's really out of the park's reach. If I had to make a prediction myself, my guesses are as follows. First, I think a large-scale RMC Raptor is probably what's coming here. Number 2 would be a Flyer, most likely B&M, but preferably Vekoma for that new launch system. Now, finally, I might sprinkle a little money on an Axis coaster. I think it's a long shot, but I think it's very plausible. Look for a 2023 opening here as well. I really doubt this park waits any longer than that. This has to be one of the harder picks to make out of all the videos I've done on all the different parks because there's just so much they could possibly get. So make sure to check out the rest of the playlist to see where my mind's at for a couple other parks. And let me know what ride you want to see at Cedar Point come next. So till next week, that's all from the shores of Island Coasters.